All right, let's take a look little bit closer. Let's take a little bit closer look at last night's game. Lots been written and said, and if we all go back to how we felt the moment we heard that Hank Bachmeier wasn't going to be playing that particular game, I think we all had different, feelings like first of all, is what happened? Is it long term? And then the unsettling of not knowing, is it short term, long term? Is it COVID? Or something in between? You put that together with the CBS Sports announcer and their thoughts that on Tuesday they found out that Jack Sears found out he was going to be the starter, and you're working with that, waiting for Coach Harsin in the post game to confirm, deny, or somewhere in between, and he goes in between and does say that during the week there was an injury in practice. Was that Skinner? Was that Hank? And that it developed through the week on when Hank would or wouldn't be able to go. So let's face it, the majority of COVID cases right now are able, these kids are all able to recover. So the question becomes, when was that positive test? Would he be out for the BYU game? So to me, there's just so much conjecture and probably useless energy committed to that whole thought process. Even as a fan, I would think you would want to start thinking through that the team with the best coaching, the most organization, and the deepest bench and the most versatile players is going to have the best chance to win in any given game. And so far we've seen, just take a look at Air Force, the kids that were allowed out of the season back in August when all this stuff came down about not playing this year. And then they have injuries like they do every year. Things started changing for them. And they're not able to adapt as easy. These kids have other priorities. So they don't necessarily have the deepest bench by design. And I use this game and situation. We will talk about Jack Sears in just a second, but I use this whole situation to really take a closer look at the Boise State football program and to see what we all have. And you've got a system that has really been there since Dirk Cutter was there. So we're talking 20 plus years that has, yes, been adapted for the times, yes, been adapted for personnel, but also been passed down from generations to players who became coaches, back to players who became coaches. Brian Harsin, of course, is the constant through this whole time period. So he's seen the trial and error that comes with how Boise State will change what they do, offer something different. And that knowledge, that tribal knowledge, as some people like to put it, is invaluable. And there's other guys on that staff. Coach Ridd's been around a long time, for example. Coach Franklin played there. That continuity is invaluable. And I know Coach Harsin at times, well, not even at times. I think if you really analyze it, for somebody to be completely enamored with his funny lines and his folksy ways, that's just not right. That's not how he acts. That's not who he is. That's not what he's doing. That's not what he's there for. That's not who his personality is. So you just want a different type of personality with a similar type result. That's okay. That's all of our right. So I understand he's going to have a detractor or two, and that's just, I guess, what you have to accept in order to get to the end result, because the end result, I think, is what we're all after. And I know I look at that and I see how fortunate the Boise State football program is to have somebody like Coach Harsin, who's been able to grow, earn a good competitive pay salary compared to his peers, and have a lot of success. And I think he's waiting for another opportunity that's similar to Boise State before he leaves. So I think that's a different story for a different day. But I bring this all up because, to me, this culture, this coaching staff, the way they do business is extremely valuable right now. With everything in chaos around them, they have a system and a way of doing business that they can count on. and those kids can count on, and the next kid who comes in can count on, and the kid, Avery Williams, that moves to safety can count on. The kid that moves in from North Carolina State and starts playing a triple option football team, Miller at linebacker, he can count on it. And I just think that we have to take and give that some thought, give it some credit, take that into consideration, share that with other people when they start criticizing Harsin or Boise State, or they need a change or whatever else is needed. It's time to, in times like this, I think, after a game like the Air Force game, to respect what they've done and look at it and appreciate it, because it may not be there forever. Specifically, with an athletic director hire to be made and COVID, and what kind of resources Boise State will come out of COVID with to pay a coach and his staff and move the program forward. Nobody has those answers right now, and they're going to be critical to get very soon. Let me just get to Jack Sears and his situation. I was concerned with Sears pregame because he's not been around long enough. He's not played a lot of football in the last year or two. He didn't even play a lot at Southern Cal. He went through a couple of systems at USC. He was probably doing a lot of scout team work. It didn't necessarily work out for him. He thought he'd go to San Diego State. Then Coach Long checked out. And so he checked out, and he comes to Boise State, and he has to learn all that playbook. And the next thing you know, he's thrown into a game with a couple of days' notice. So to me, anytime we get a quarterback like that, and we've had a few, right? We can go back to just Henderson last year, Cozart the year before. Those guys are going to have different packages and playbooks put together specifically for where they're at mentally with the playbook, and also physically in the type of player that they are. So I thought with Sears, you don't want him dropping back and making one check down, two check downs, third read. You don't want to complicate it too much. You want to keep his mind to be able to read and react and maybe make one or two key decisions and then let it fly like they did with the first play. But you get him back in the pocket, and you start letting the defense come at him in obvious passing situations because you're not running the ball well early. I think you can all agree that there were times where he would just run out of that pocket. Now, that's a good skill to have, but ultimately they're going to want to clean that up. And of course, BYU has seen that. And now, when everybody has a chance to prepare, and they will prepare for him, I do not believe they will prepare for Hank Bachmeier. And if they won't care at BYU, because they're going to come at him either. They're going to try to knock Hank Bachmeier out of the game with a lot of pressure. They're going to try to come after Jack Sears and confuse him. So I think you just put together one game plan and roll from there. But that's the thing about Sears that will change, I think, in game two. He will have to face more blitz pressure. He will have to read and react more. He may not be able to roll out as much and cut the field in half, so only has to read half the field and make a decision that's right in front of him. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think things will change for him in week two. And let's hope Helani comes back. And I think that they will need somebody who can make somebody miss like Helani. I think they will need somebody who can break a tackle like Helani and is explosive. They need that kind of player. Again, though, Van Buren and everybody else that stepped up is a credit to the program. It's a credit to all the people who've come before it and all the people that support it and put it in a position to have this kind of continuity and success from man one to sometimes man four. You think that's easy? Go to another college football program of your choice and either ask them or look at it, and it's not. It's special. It's in a few places, and right here it's at Boise State. We're going to find out a lot more about Boise State against BYU, but I'll be breaking that down a lot more later. But in the meantime, that's how I see what happened, and it was a great victory for Boise State against Air Force.